let me introduce you to Rudy.
Hi.
And I need to ask you to pronounce your last name.
My last name is Tyburczy.
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 Tyburczy, okay?
Yeah, not so
Okay,
hard.
it's easier to pronounce than to read.
Right, it's an ugly, scary.
Yeah. Hola, soy Nuria Jimenez y estás viendo el blog de los miércoles, el lugar donde enterarte de toda la movida de stand-up comedy que está sucediendo ahora mismo en Uruguay y parte del extranjero. El vídeo de hoy es la continuación de la charla que tuvimos con Rudy Tyburczy en Corea del Sur a principios de enero. Si te perdiste el primer vídeo, que todavía lo puedes ver, te pongo un poquito en contexto. Rudy es un comediante estadounidense que hace 6 años que vive en Seúl, en Corea del Sur, y junto con otros compañeros comediantes está gestionando un par de escenarios de stand-up comedy. Sobre su experiencia, sobre cómo ve el stand-up y algunos consejos que nos deja para personas que están empezando o simplemente interesados y afines, es que va el video de hoy. Espero que lo disfrutes. Could someone live from only comedy here in Seoul?
No.
Okay.
I mean, in different ways. I have a lot of friends who are performers and they make their living from whether it's acting or music or being on TV somehow. There are ways to make a living from entertainment and being a performer, but not from stand-up comedy. If you were to try to do that, I think you would run out of performance venues. You would run out of like if your main concern is money, you would make enemies.
Yeah.
You know, and so if you're not doing it because you love it, first of all, then you should stop. That's always what should be the first thing is, for whatever reason.
Could you please repeat that?
If you don't do comedy because you love it, first of all, don't do it anymore.
I totally agree.
And so that's something that I live by. I kind of have the golden rule. Like I try to do comedy that I would want to watch. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the same things over and over. I don't want to say the same things over and over, which is something I need to work on as a performer. I need to do more writing and work on more bits and stuff for longer periods of time. But I just want to do comedy that I think is fun and interesting and thoughtful and not mean, not hateful. That's not who I am. And sometimes, you know, I'll have a mean joke here and there, but it's also hopefully not seen as a mean joke.
Yeah.
And if it is, then I need to do a better job of getting my point across. So
How often do you change your set?
I don't know if I have ever done the same set twice in a row.
Oh, really?
Like whether it's, and that's not bragging, that's probably more me just not being prepared enough. Because I like to improvise. I like to find new things. I like to be in the moment. I like to interact. I'm not great with crowd work, but I like to interact with the moment and with the people that are there and make people feel like it is an experience and that I am present and so are they. And so, I mean, I have jokes and stories that I've kept for years that I love, but I don't always tell them the same way or in the same order or with the same tone of voice. So I change my act a lot and maybe almost too much. I need to be more precise.
I've been opening my act with the same joke since I did my first stage.
All right,
Yeah.
and that's what a lot of people do. You know?
But you know, I try to change it, but I've never find a better joke to open myself.
Well, you know, pretend that joke was just killed in a fire. Pretend that joke just got murdered or kidnapped and it's
Okay,
gone.
okay.
Try it one time and see what happens. See,
Okay.
because then you'll have to make adjustments. You'll have to try to make other things stronger. You know, you've been doing comedy for 6 years, so
You're right.
like if you've started with the same joke every time, that's a crutch. You know, that's something you depend on.
Yeah,
and
you're
it's
right.
probably a great joke, but that it's a little too comfortable. Like I couldn't do
Yeah,
that, but I
right.
still have some jokes that I like to open with, and so.
I will do that, and I will let you know.
Please, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear how it goes.
And if I have to let stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
I will look for you. And I will
Okay. If you love something, let it go. Let this
¿Cómo
joke go
empezaste a hacer comedia
sometime.
en Corea? Tell me in detail, because okay, you arrived here.
And so when I
what?
came back in 2010, I wanted to do more things and be more active and get more involved. And so I just probably Googled comedy, Seoul, and there was improv and there was stand-up. So I went to improv rehearsals and then I went to a stand-up show. And at the time, the founder, Brian Aylward, had brought this guy, Tom Cotter, a professional comedian named Tom Cotter, who is really funny. And so that was like the first show I saw here. But he's like a professional working comedian from the States. And
Okay.
our founder had brought him over, and so that was the first show that I saw, and I found out that there were open mics and things like that. And so I just started going to the open mics, and I was doing okay, and so yeah, and then I just continued to do stand-up as much as I could.
Did you see development since you arrived here to now about stand-up comedy in Seoul?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always are getting new people to come out, and a lot of, we're always getting people who are leaving as well. That's how it is. People come to Korea for 1 year, for 2 years, and then they leave. And so that's challenging. It's always just a revolving door of faces, and sometimes you make really good friends and they leave, and sometimes they're really great comedians too. So that's unfortunate, but that's how it is. So.
But have you seen an increase of the places where you can go and perform or watch?
Yeah, definitely. It's nice because Jeff and I are not producing all of the shows. Like tonight's show, for example, there's a show that one of our friends who does comedy, C. Charles, he has started to host a couple of different nights himself. So there's a show tonight that we don't have to do anything except perform.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's nice because so often you have a lot of other responsibilities with these shows. And that's like the main thing that's tough is that's why I want to spend a month or 2 months in a city with comedy every day so I can just focus on writing and performing and not focus on getting contracts together for comedians who are coming or being there an hour early so I can take tickets and that kind of stuff.
Is there a local audience?
Sometimes. Stand-up is not a Korean thing. Stand-up comedy is not Korean. They don't.
And it's not welcome either?
Well, I don't know about that, but it's just not something that is a form of entertainment Koreans know about. Okay. And maybe it wouldn't be welcome because there are still some restrictions as to what you can and can't say about certain topics. So we have like our weekly open mic is at a small Aussie bar, and oftentimes the only people there are like 7 comedians and then a table of loud Koreans at the very front who don't care about the show, and that's fine. It's not bad on them or negative on them, but it's just like, oh, okay, great, and so you have to deal with that. Yeah. And but I do have some Korean friends who come out and they really enjoy it, and
do you
that's
see
awesome.
Some possibility to start teaching, not necessarily academically teaching, but showing, getting Korean people to know stand-up comedy, and maybe in 10 years finding Korean people making Korean stand-up comedy in their own language?
Yeah, I do think there is a possibility for that. I've often thought about doing I've taught some small workshop classes on comedy and things like that here to Korean groups and foreign groups, and I've often thought that like businesses would really benefit from some kind of improv or performance training, and like so you can think outside the box. But I think it could happen, and much like Korean people could, Korean culture, society could, learn something from being more open-minded and more improvisational. I could learn something from being more strict and more regimented and that kind of thing. I think that when you have leaned more to one side, good, embrace that, encourage that, but also you can learn from going in the opposite
¿Cómo es
direction.
tu rutina creativa para hacer tu material?
Gracias. I just write down things that I think are interesting, first of all. I wish I had more focus, like I would sit down and write jokes and write things. But that's not what works for me. I don't work. Maybe I need to try doing that more. But I do a lot of writing on stage. Like I will have a premise, an idea, a story that I want to talk about, that I want to share, and then I will try to find the humor in it on stage. Sometimes that's successful, sometimes it's not. And so I do that a lot. But something I'm trying now, I just write in the morning, free flowing, whatever comes out of my head, and so I think that's good as well. Something free flowing.
Free flowing.
Yeah, so I don't edit it or anything like that, and maybe it's just talking about my day or whatever.
Computer or
computer?
Okay.
Simply because when I write with my hand is not as fast as my head. So computer, you can just do this, and like it's magical. Like your fingers are insane. I can't believe that I can just like do this, and I'm like, oh my god, all my thoughts are right there now.
I did not think that yet, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. And so I think that that's good too, just to get stuff out. And I go back and forth between writing notes on my phone and in a notebook. I think notebooks are better. I think when I put stuff in my phone, I forget it more. But when it's in a notebook,
now you're in the dark.
Now I'm back in the dark. Kind of chase the sun. But when I write in a notebook, I feel like it's more in the moment. It's more, this is how I was feeling, or how, like, if I have horrible handwriting, it's always bad, but it's good to see what that joke felt like when you wrote it, when you thought about it. Maybe it was in the dark and you couldn't see what you were writing, or maybe you were on the subway or whatever. But I like to do that. So I will, jokes often come out of improvising on stage as well. I like to talk about what other comedians have talked about and just add my thoughts to it. So that's why I like hosting or going later in a show, because I can pick up on themes and ideas that have been thrown out there that night. And so I like that. But then there's also a part of me that wishes I could just do everything I planned and not worry about anything else. Just have it set.
Para quienes están empezando, por favor.
Sí, interesante. Just do it. Just get up and perform. That's it. Shut up and talk. Shut up and get on stage. Quit thinking about it like, oh, I'm not ready. It's too. Shut up. Do it. I think we're really good at making excuses why we shouldn't do something, but we're not very good at making reasons to do something.
Wow, that deserves a picture in Facebook.
Yes. And if you're doing it for any external reasons, you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I think. I do it because I love it, and I want to express myself, and I want to feel like a part of something, and I want other people to feel like a part of something, and like they're not so weird for thinking what they think, because we all have these weird, crazy, inappropriate, sad, happy, violent, sexual thoughts, and people don't voice that. So
I think you're totally right.
yeah, so just do it. If you're thinking about comedy and you might, just do it. And
they were the inventors of that sentence. Just do it.
well, I'm from Eugene, Oregon, which is where Nike began. It's
So you
from my
got it in your
university.
blood.
Yeah. No, it's quit thinking, start acting.
Y ahora sí que llegamos al final de esta charla que tuvimos con Rudy. Espero que te haya gustado. Si te gustó el video, dale like y no te olvides suscribirte a mi canal en YouTube, Nuria Jimenez Comediante, porque así no te pierdes los videos que pongo sobre este blog y algunos de mis actuaciones. También te recomiendo que visites el blog en mi página www.standupcomedy.ui, porque ahí en el blog escrito incluyo referencias, enlaces y más información sobre temas que hemos hablado en la charla. O sea que encontrarás más información. Si no te quieres perder ningún boletín semanal, regístrate en mi página web. Si te gustó, compártelo. Y por favor, déjame tu opinión. Al final del blog puedes escribir qué opinaste sobre esta charla, qué te gustaría ver en este blog, qué es lo que no te ha gustado. Cualquier crítica constructiva es bienvenida. Y nada, espero que lo hayan disfrutado y recuerda...
Más se consigue lamiendo que muriendo.
Very good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Rudy.
Thank you. Yes, it was wonderful having you all as guests here for a little while.
Thank you
And
so much.